Hello, everyone. My name is Mariana, and I want to thank you for joining us for the latest Kumi Now online gathering, addressing the issues facing Jerusalem. Before we start, I'd like to remind you that this session is being broadcast live on Facebook. If you do not wish to appear, please turn off your video feed. We would also love it if you could quickly share the Facebook post on Facebook so that others may join. The link will be shared in the chat. We hope that you will find this session interesting and informative, and I'd like to start by having everyone you'll be seeing today introduce themselves. We'll begin with Jaffar Farrah.
Yes, I'm with you.
Great, go ahead, please, Jaffar.
Okay, my name is Jaffar Farrah. I'm the director of the Mossawa Center, the Advocacy Center for the Palestinian Arab Community in Israel. The plan was that I will be with you for the next half an hour, but unfortunately tonight there was a shooting by the police in a city called Tamra in the north, and 2 people were killed, and we are in our way to the funeral. The police is blocking the streets around the city and preventing people from going around. The Mossawa Center is an advocacy center for the Palestinian Arab community in Israel. We deal with the social, economic, political, and legal status of the Palestinian community. We also deal with the struggle against racism, police violence, and incitement against the Palestinian community in Israel. I hope that you know that we are a part of the Palestinian people. We are about 21% of the population in Israel. We are citizens of the state of Israel. Legally, we are, there is more than 35 laws that discriminate us and guarantee collective rights for the Jewish majority, and also for Jews that are not living inside the Green Line. We do state budget and economic development. We do legislation, community organizing, and also outreach to the media, to the Jewish public. The Mossawa Center is located in Haifa. We suffer as a community, and I will just try to cover this issue. We suffer as a community from police violence. As a result of police violence, we lost during the last 20 years more than 40 Arab citizens that have been shot and killed by police. You know, if I may remind you with the case of African American community and police violence and over-policing in the African American community, this is the situation of the Palestinian community in Israel. So in parallel to the systematic discrimination that we face, unfortunately, we have to fight against police violence and also incitement that is, you know, coming from the Prime Minister himself, but also from ministers and religious leaders. In the last few years, the community suffer from the fact that the Israeli government is not implementing the rule of law over the community, and is you know, allowing a huge amount of weapon and also black market when it comes to money and laundering money. We talk about violence in the community, crime in the community. And I also here would like to connect it to the African American community, but in our case, it's a policy. It's a policy to help and to control the community through internal crisis and without implementing the rule of law, And the fact that we lost just last year 111 Arab citizens that have been killed by the gangs in the Arab community. And in any normal country, when state and government can't protect citizens, the government should pay the price. But in the case of the Arab community, they treat the Arab community as like second-class citizens, and they push all the poverty, all the frustration in the community to the backyard of the state. And almost every day we witness gangs controlling the streets, and almost every day we are losing young men and also women as a result of internal violence that we think that it's similar to the violence that have been created in the occupied territories in 2002 and 2003 after the beginning of the second intifada. It's part of Netanyahu's policy to control the Arab community and to discriminate the Arab community and to keep the Arab community marginalized from political decisions such as the future of the occupation, the future of this state, and the future of the state budget, for example. So we see it as a policy of Netanyahu's government, and we pay blood price. We have hundreds of people that have been injured. As I said, 111 people that have been killed in the last year. And tonight we are the Ahmed Hijazi, the young nurse. He was in his last year to study nursing. He was shot and killed last night by police during shooting on a gang. And we as a community are planning today to organize demonstrations all over the Arab community. So there is a demonstrations now that start at 6 o'clock all over in Nazareth, in Fahim city, and in Tamra and Shfa'amer. I'm talking to you now, heading to the Tamra demonstration. Just the police and is blocking the roads around the city and preventing us from accessing the funeral of Ahmed Hijazi. Another victim from, 16 people have been killed just from the beginning of this year by the gangs in the Arab community. One of the persons that have been involved in shooting tonight in Tamra city was a soldier in the IDF. So in this sense, we know that a lot of the weapon and the soldiers in the gangs are people that have been recruited in the past to the Israeli army, and they are serving the gangs, and also the weapon that they use in shooting against civilians in the Arab villages and cities almost in daily basis is a weapon that is coming out from the IDF, then from the Israeli army. The two guns that have been used tonight in Tamra, they have been smuggled from the army, from the Israeli army. So in this sense, soldiers, Arab soldiers that have been recruited to be traitors by the IDF, they are recruited to be part of the gangs. And as a community, that we don't have any policing, any ability to protect ourselves, we hope that the international community will hold Israel responsible to the crisis that we face, that from one side, the police is using violence against us, and from the other side, the police is feeding the gangs to create a small civil war inside the Arab community.
Thank you, Jaffar, for sharing with us. I want to share with you our condolences on the loss of Ahmed. I'm sure this is a really, really hard time for you, and thank you for making the time to be with us. We're going to have
I would like to thank you, Sabil, also for hosting this meeting. I think the Arab community, the Palestinian community in Israel is very important community. We think that we are game changers in sense of our location. And we think that that's why why we are targeted. Yes, it's not easy days for us. And we hope that you will keep looking after this community, that we are part of the Palestinian people, but we are also citizens of the state. And we hope that we will be able to change the status quo that have been created by the Israeli government by controlling the Palestinian people under long-term occupation. So thanks for hosting this meeting, and I hope that I will be able to address you also in the future.
So I can't, so right now we have 76 people online from all over the world. So where some of us are getting a little window into the life that you're living. So I'd like to ask Suha to introduce herself now.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Suha Salman Musa. I'm the executive director of the Mossawa Center and Friends of Mossawa in the US. I'm currently staying here in the US. I'm talking to you from New York. We have established Friends of Mossawa here alongside to work to encourage the work of the Mossawa Center, what Jaffar has just explained about our work and what we do inside Israel and among our community. We also do international advocacy, and this is a very crucial part of our advocacy. This is why we established Friends of Mossawa here in the US. We do educational programs reaching out to the American public, as well as we're reaching out to the officials, if it's Congress and Senate members, especially now that we have a new administration. The main issue is here to bring our voice as a Palestinian citizen of Israel to the American public. Usually this voice is not heard here, well. As well as we also, part of our work is to talk about the challenges and the work that the Mossawa does among the community, but also not only the challenges and that we are a victim, we also would like to address our powerful community as individuals and also as a community. I know this is a very sad day. I know that I'm staying here in New York, but like from last night, I haven't slept enough just following up with all the things that is happening. We have dealing with this crisis, and it's, as Jaffar said, it is a civil war in our community. This is a very sad day, and we are dealing with very sad days. Every day we have someone killed in our community. It doesn't matter where or who you are a target. And this is something that we are dealing daily in our community. It's very, how you call it, very stressful situation. You feel like down when you hear the news, especially if you are away and you are not around your families and your friends there. But we need to do something and we also need to work as a community, and we need also to work with the international community to hold the government, the Israeli government, accountable of what's going on in our community in matter of the crime and the violence that we are dealing with. So this is what I'm gonna stop here and they will continue.
Thank you, Suha. Now, Denise, if you could just briefly introduce yourself, and then
shortly.
And then it'll be Omar, and then we'll get to your story.
Yes, but storytelling. I am a storyteller from Haifa, and storytelling teach me to make it to minimize my talk. So I am Palestinian from Haifa, a woman. All my identities are with conflict with each other, and you will enjoy later on the stories.
Thank you very much. Omar, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Omar Harami and I'm from Sabil, Jerusalem.
And I think you were going to do the update next. Is that right?
That is correct. Should I start?
Okay, go for it.
Okay. So, I mean, There has been, I mean, it's the same thing when it comes to COVID-19. The cases are still high in both Palestine and Israel. Israel has extended its lockdown of Israel and occupied East Jerusalem for another week. And the PA has also extended the lockdown for 2 weeks. Cases remain in above 6,000 or 7,000 in total per day. In the last 2 weeks, there has been an increase with youth detention, teenagers, minors under 17 years old. And many of these teenagers are reporting very harsher than the usual torture, beating, and violence. So the numbers are going up in unprecedented matters. This is Amal Nakhle. Amal means hope in Arabic. He was detained 6 months ago under administrative detention, although he is a minor. Even the European Union just issued a statement, and they don't usually issue a statement challenging the Israeli government that things are going out of control within the occupied territories. He has already spent 6 months under administrative detention. That means he has not been charged or accused of anything. Israel keeps them without letting people know why they are being accused, even for minors. In Masaf, in the South Hebron areas, Israel has been conducting military exercises. The military exercises are conducted in civilian areas, mainly Bedouin areas, and they evict they tell entire communities. Last week, they told 6 entire families, extended families, to leave the area because they had to do military exercises. It's imagined that the army, the US Army, goes into New York and says, we're going to do a military exercise inside New York. So you need to leave for your safety. It does not make any sense. It is under occupied, it's occupied territory. They're going into civilian areas, and Israel is just continues to not make sense. In the last 2 weeks, there has been over 200 cases of COVID-19 cases inside Palestinian political prisoners inside Israeli jails. This, compared to the total number since March last year, the total number is 350 cases, 200 only in the last month. There's a high rate of COVID-19 among Palestinian political prisoners, and it is also affecting their mental health. So this cartoon displays that it is even when they are in prison, the people who get COVID-19, they are also thrown in cells on their own, which is a technique of torture. So they're not offered proper medical treatment, but it's even their medical or treatment is more like torture. Last week we mentioned that Israel was not allowing material to come to do material into Al-Aqsa Mosque to carry important renovations or fixing or maintenance, like fixing a water sink or a bathroom and so on. Jordan expressed some pressure, and they allowed maintenance to be conducted in Al-Aqsa Mosque. Imagine you need to do a whole lobby and a campaign case just to fix a sink or a toilet or I mean, it is a door handle. That's news from Palestine and Israel, and thank you.
Thank you, Omar. I think now that our next thing is going to be Denise is going to tell us her story. And if I'm wrong, somebody can tell me. Go ahead, Denise.
Yes, and today it's a real story that happened to me while I was young. And this is from a performance. I will make it like this. You can see this sack. It's called the sack of the storyteller from Haifa. It's sack with all my story from childhood, from like 50 years ago. I was born in Nazareth, far away from Caesarea, the village of my parents. My mother and father are cousins. They were forced to leave their village, and it was ruined by the Israeli mafia or by the Israeli army in the War of 48. But in age of 1960 it was, my father get a job in Haifa to teach there in one of the schools. So we moved to Haifa, and I think I was very lucky to live in such, and still living with my family in such a lovely city. But unfortunately, our first flat was in the border between the two neighborhoods, the Israeli and the Palestinian one, but in a Palestinian house, which was occupied by the Israeli, and there was settlement from Israeli settlement in this in the flat, the other flat. So my lovely melody that my favorite was Artik Lamoon مش حلاوة, Artik Lamoon مش حلاوة. It was the calling of the ice cream seller who was going around the streets of Haifa with his wooden box hanging around his neck. When I heard this, and I knew that I have the 2 penny that I won from the reading competition, I was so glad. And my father was listening to the Arab radio from Cairo, very, very low, and like secretly hiding in the living room. And my mother preparing the food, so nobody noticed that I crept out of the house. And I hardly catch the ice cream seller, and he gave me, I bought from him the lemon ice cream. It's my favorite till now. And it's very funny that my nephew, not nephew, granddaughter, she also loved this ice cream, lemon ice cream. So I was very happy, very excited that I worked very hard, reading like 3 novels for youth to reach this competition and to win and to have that 2 penny. I started to eat the ice cream, and suddenly there was the sirena, the war sirena, and it was suddenly like noise, such a noise that I never ever heard before. All the people began to run, and some of them pushed me, and I was down. My ice cream dropped from me, and I was crying, crying, not from fear. I was crying about my ice cream, the lemon ice cream. 2 defense officers, civil defense officers saw me, and they started to talk to me Hebrew. I didn't understand. I hardly understand Hebrew, and they say Hamuda. I know, but I am not Hamuda. Hamuda is sweetie in Hebrew. I say my name is Danna at home. Anna Danna, I am not Hamuda. And they say, where is your home? What is your flat? What is your house? And they follow me and took me to my house. Our flat was declared as a shelter. There was no public shelter in Israel in those days, in Haifa. It was the first war. It was the 67 war, and it was the 7th of June. I was crying, but all the people, all the neighbors, they came to our house because it was the shelter for all the building. They were happy and dancing. Oh, Jerusalem shall be have. No. They were so happy, and my father was so sad. And when the sirena ended and all the neighbors left, I was crying, still crying. And my father asked me, why you are crying? I lost my ice cream, my lemon ice cream. I say, oh my God, you are crying for your ice cream. And Jerusalem today was totally full occupied by the Israeli army. It was like to live in like coexistence city. For me, it's not coexistence, it's parallel existence. I was sure, like when I was young, now I'm 63 almost, that yes, I want to be Israeli. شوي شوي, I discovered, no, I am Palestinian, and I'm not belonging to this community. And you know, it's I will tell you about two spots, like two episodes. There is an avenue that connects the old city up to the Carmel. When I was young, like 6, 7, 8 more, it was called the Mountain Street, شارع الجبل, because it's up to the mountain. It's always they are changing the streets names. It's also the struggle. Who is the owner? So I am giving the name. I am the owner. So they change it to the شارع الأمم, the United Nations, صح؟ حدث على احنا بالعربي. The United Nation Street. And when the United Nations declared that Zionism as a racism movement, they changed the name of the street, and we are living in our main neighborhood, Wadi Nisnas, in our main street called, guess, it's a Zionist Avenue, جادة الصهيونية. Another small issue, when I was pregnant with my first baby, I used to work in a hospital. And the people knew that I am Palestinian, but it's like don't look as Palestinian, you know. It's, they tell it like, oh, you are not look. Okay. I went to make the ultrasound to discover what I have, the girl, baby, or boy. And the technical woman who is making this, she was so happy. It's a boy. It's another soldier for the country. I said, oh, sorry. It's not another soldier. It's my baby, and I am Palestinian, and my baby will not go to your army. So it's not easy. I am not talking about the discrimination, the political, about the daily life, about to live all these small details that make life interesting but not easy. I hope that you will enjoy the other issue in this evening. Thank you, Omar. Thank you, Sabil. Thank the woman who wrote me such a warm words about my stories. It was really, I am still like a small child. I really enjoy compliments. So enjoy your night. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. You are truly amazing. That's an amazing
Shukran.
story, and thank you for sharing it
Shukran.
with us. We should
Shukran.
find you some lemon ice cream. How about that?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to move on now to Suha, who has probably a lot to tell us today. Thank you.
Yeah, where should I begin?
Yes.
Okay. No, I just want to say for Denise, thank you for telling this story or your story. I think this is part of the stories that we as a Palestinian, and I would like to talk about the Palestinians, to focus more on the Palestinian citizen of Israel, about the struggle, the frustration, the identity. You said it's not only for daily challenges, but as a community, as a Palestinians, as also a citizen of Israel, we are really struggling. We are dealing with a lot of issues that we would like to work on it. The story of Denise, I think it's the story for everyone else. Everyone from our community dealt with the part of the things that Denise said. If it's you don't look like an Arab, or oh, you really, or it's like, okay, how Arab looks like, so they will not answer you. Especially when I was in the university, in the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, when I was taking the bus or the cab. Okay, where you came from? Okay, from Nazareth. Okay, Nazareth. You mean Nazareth? No, Nazareth. So, okay, so this is the thing that we are dealing of, like, they do not understand that Palestinians, citizens of Israel, are people that they can also have a dialogue with them. They are not as the way that they would like to describe us, especially the Zionist and the right-wing groups inside Israel. So the things that I would like to address today is the topics and the issues that the Mossawa Center and we are working and dealing with for our community and with our community. I know Jaffar did the briefing about the work that we do. I would like to start with the challenges that our community is dealing with. Is that okay, Mariana?
Yes, please.
Okay. So as an advocacy center, we deal with a lot of topics, and a part of them is doing lobbying and working with officials and with the Knesset member, especially the things that we are having a struggle with the state budget. As a community and as local councils, we struggle of less funding from the state budget. We are 20% of the population inside Israel, but we do not get the funds that we should have get, especially in very important areas and topics. I would like to address the healthcare. I would like to talk about the education, transportation, and also all the home planning and industrial zones and employment. All these issues that we do not have or we do not get funds in order to build our community, in order to build our community, our individuals and young people, this is all will ends up with a violence, with black market, with people with that they do not have a future. For instance, part of the work that we do is working with the Knesset members to have more funds for industrial zones in our community. As you know, more than 50% of the Arab community is, or Arab families, and is under poverty line. And this is part of that. We do not have industrial zones. The women cannot, we don't have a good transportations to, for young people and especially for women to go and work outside their villages, as well as that we do not have vocational trainings for people, like for women especially, in order to have to be involved in the labor work or labor forces. And we work very hard with the Knesset members in order to really bring more funds to localities that they have the spaces to have more and more businesses, and to encourage the industrial companies to come to the Arab community in order to open more and more spaces for our community. As for education, we struggle usually, or we also struggle from less programming in the Arab schools. We have less funds. I think like for Jewish students, they have more than 15% difference in funds than the Arab students. So this is also part that there's a lot of students, especially in the high school students, that do not continue and continue their to be staying in the school system. And this part of these young people from age 16 till 20, that they do not have a future, they do not know where to go, they will be part of these gangs, of these crimes, and they will more and more be involved in shooting and in crime scenes. And this is something that we are also trying to advocate for and trying to have some solutions for this topic. And as I said, this day is a very sad day. If you go to the Arab community, to our community, and ask them, okay, what is bothering you right now? This is the crime, and this is the violence that we are dealing with. And this is also, as I said, this is a lot of things that connected to each other. violence, connected to less funding, connected to less financial aid for Arab community, to a more employment or unemployment rate in our community, less education. So it's a lot of things that we are, as a Mossawa Center, are dealing with, but not only alone, we are also working with other communities and other civil society organizations in this matter. Part of our work, not only analyzing the state budget and asking for more funds and what funds are needed to our community, we're also working to empower our community. Especially we do work with youth groups, we do work with women, because we believe if you are how you call it, a powerful community, you can deal with the problems that we are facing, especially when we face these discriminations and these incitements from the right wing and from the Israeli government and Netanyahu's government especially. What Jaffar said, that we have a civil war, this is something that the policy of the government, especially the Netanyahu's government from the last 10 years, is having us fighting each other and forget about all the incitements and the discriminations that we are facing from the government. So we think that as a Mossawa Center, how to fight this violence, these crimes, is by empowering the youth, empowering the community, the individuals. This way we can work and fight the violence, and especially that we do not, the police and the government, they do not have, they say that they would like to have a plan in order to deal with the violence in the Arab community, but nothing is happening on reality. And this is something that we are working very hard to do, to have some results on it. As well as I would like to say that part of our work also is to outreach to the Jewish community, especially to marginalized communities in the Jewish population, because we think that this should be changed. The reality should be changed. We are dealing now with the 5th election round in 2.5 years or 3 years. And we believe that Netanyahu will be elected again with more right-wing government. We think that our situation, and in order to be a game changer, we need to change how the relationship between the Arab community and the marginalized communities inside the Jewish community, like the Russian community, that they come from Russia, the Jewish, the Ethiopian, that they are suffering also from police brutality as we suffer, the Mizrahi, that they came from Arab countries and they have the same culture as we do. So we think that this is part of our role as a game changer, to change our reality inside Israel, to change our reality also with between Israel and the Palestinian Authority, and also to take into consideration all the changes that is happening in our area, in the Middle East area. So this is something that we as a Mossawa Center is working with, and I would like to be clear. This is not a coexistence, Denise. This is something else. We are approaching with, as a Mossawa, as a Palestinian group, as a Palestinian community inside Israel, to the other marginalized groups in order to build a trust, in order to talk about topics and issues that are common between us and them. And we would like to encourage them to change the reality with their community also. We would like to encourage them as a Russian or as a Mizrahi to say, hey, okay, I would like to be in a demonstration against the police brutality with the Arab community. So this is something that we are trying to build. This is a long-term process. This is a long-term that we need a lot of groups and key actors inside the Jewish community in Israel, but also we believe that this is part of our international outreach and international solidarity to work with international groups in order to work this together and to bring this change to our reality and also to the area in between Israel and Palestinian territories. As I said, we do work with the international community, especially here in the US, and I would like what Omar said about the child detention. I think you are aware that Betty McCallum is having this resolution about child detention that asking the Congress not to send funds to Israel as long as they are treating the Palestinian children and they do the child detention. So this is something that we are following up with the very active Congress members and very active American human rights, American figures here. So this is something also that I think Sabil should follow up with this resolution.
Thank you, Suha. You've given us lots of information in lots of different areas.
You didn't stop me.
So no, I don't want to stop you. We have some questions and people are welcome to put other questions in the chat. I'll try and keep track of them. I think I'll start with the easier questions first. One's kind of a fact, I guess. How many Palestinian members are there in the Knesset? Do they have any voice? And do they have to swear allegiance to the Jewish state? Maybe
Jaffar
that's not an easy question.
I'm going to take the questions. I don't know if Jaffar is with us. Okay.
I don't think he's here anymore. Omar, do you see him? Or Mark is saying no, he's gone.
Yeah, okay. So we have 15 from the joint list, 15 Arab Knesset members. Actually, we have 16, if I'm not mistaken, because there's some Arab members are included from with Zionist parties like the Kahol Lavan. Okay. But if we are talking about the joint list, that we have 15 Arab Knesset members, and as I said, we are Palestinians, citizens of Israel, so we obey the law of the state of Israel. So yes, they do the.
Do they swear allegiance to a Jewish state? So they have to
swear. Yeah, they swear. Yeah,
suck it up, as it were. Okay. So now the next question is the harder one, which is the joint list breakup that we've been hearing about here. Can you explain it? Good luck.
I'll try. I think they cannot explain it to us, but I'll try.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, the joint list is from 4 different parties. Hadash is the Communist Israeli Party, Balad, the Islamic Party, and Ta'al. It's from Ahmad Tibi party. Because of the threshold in 2015 that was raised in order to get less Arab members getting into the Knesset, so they have connected together and built the joint list. Last election, they succeeded to have more turn voters.
A bigger turnout?
Turn voters last elections in April 2019, if I'm not mistaken. We had more than 64% from the Arab Israeli voters. This time, and as we hear from the news, by the way, there is still negotiations between the 4 parties in order to really stay and have the joint list running as a joint list to the next elections. But some of the issues that are facing these four parties. And this is very important also to address that these four parties, this is the first time, I think, in the Palestinian history that four different parties with four different views are gathering together. We are talking about the secular parties and the Islamic parties. So part of the, let's say, challenges, I don't want to say problems, that they are facing is started with, as they say, about a law regarding the LGBT. Yeah, so the Islamic party was against the law and the secular party was with the law. So this is started to have this crack, how you call it, with the unity. Yes, this yes. But in another, I think that we are talking about is about also the violence. The approach was that they will go as a whole. If they are going to have to talk with Netanyahu or with the government, they were having or asking as a unity to have one vote to approach any challenges or any suggestion from the government. But last month, they have also this this communication, how to approach the violence that Netanyahu is trying to bring a plan in order to fight the violence inside or the crime inside the Arab community. And some of the parties or some of the parties in the joint list would like to go and have these talks with Netanyahu against the, let's say it, I'm going to be very sensitive here because I'm not going to talk about from, on their behalf, against what the joint list would like to address this issue. So this is something very that we are talking about in the Arab community, what, let's say, the Islamic party is dealing with and what they would like from Netanyahu and what the other parties are. But these two issues about the LGBT and how to deal with the violence and how to talk with Netanyahu and if it's really we can rely on Netanyahu or not, this is something that did this how you call it?
Disagreement?
Hurt this unity. Yeah, this is something that can hurt this unity and they might not go together to the next elections.
Thank you. I'm sure it's all very complicated.
It's very complicated.
This is probably an easier question. In the Palestinian areas of Israel, are the police mainly Palestinian citizens of Israel? So where there's a lot of Palestinians living in Israel, are the police that work there mainly Palestinians?
The police officers, let's say in the Arab community or in the Arab, no, it's not the main. Actually, they can have some police officers, but usually the head of the police station usually is a Jewish, Israeli Jewish. But no, it's not all. We have some Arab police officers, but it's not really mainly that they are inside the Arab localities. But the most important thing is the let's say the head of the stations or the office station, the police stations are usually Israeli Jewish, and they are taking the call.
Okay, great. So the next one is about healthcare, and could you talk about the situation with Palestinian Arabs about the health care they receive and whether there's discrimination there? I know in Canada, people have been asking, are they getting the vaccinations the same as the Jewish people, but general health care as well.
Okay, so as for this issue, there's a lot to talk about, but I'm gonna try to be focused on the healthcare, specifically, to specify about the last year and the Corona crisis. Let's start with this, that in any aspect that you are gonna talk about services that the government will give or bring or have to the Arab community, there always a discrimination. Okay, this is a whole in a whole. We can talk about each issue, but as for the healthcare, there's two aspects I would like to talk about. The one is that more than 50% of the physicians in the hospitals are Arabs. Okay, so let's start from this. In a different angle, the healthcare services that the Arab localities and the Arab community are having is less than the Jewish community. And yes, there's a discrimination in this aspect. For instance, MADA, it's like the national police, the national ambulance. They do not get into the Arab localities. And this is something that is funded from the government. This is why we as a Palestinian community have established our own ambulances cooperation in order to go inside the Arab localities. As for the coronavirus crisis, and I would like to really address this issue. I said before that more than 50 or 45% of the physicians and the nursing and the healthcare staff are Arabs. But when we had the crisis, at the beginning of the coronavirus crisis, the healthcare or the health ministry, the health ministry, you know, at the beginning of the crisis, everyone has to get instructions, what to do, what not to do, how to deal with this corona, all these lockdowns. Everything was in Hebrew. So we as a Mossawa Center, we advocated and sent letters to the health ministry, encouraging them to take an office, a relationship office that can translate what they are publishing to into Arabic and publish it on their site, on their website, as well as to have Arab experts to bring them to the media, because everybody was listening to the media and you got all the information from the media. You know that the corona team that was dealing with the corona crisis do not have any expert, any Arab experts at the beginning. And we also advocate for this, because you need, when you would like to ask people to lock down, and this is something that it's something global that people couldn't deal how to do the lockdown. And it's different from, you know, our culture and how we live or where do we live. It's different than the Jewish community, and you need to have Arab representatives in order to address these issues to the Arab community in order to really deal with the COVID. The COVID will affect us and they will affect the Jewish community as well. So this is something that we do have these experts, but our voice and our how to address this topic wasn't heard, especially in the media and especially in the health ministry. For instance, we are working also, I would like to bring another example. We are working with village called Jisr al-Zarqa. This village is on the shore, and this is really in beside Kisaria, where Netanyahu lives. This village have, I think, 15,000 population, and they do not have a how you call it in English, journalistic, like the physician that dealing with women.
Okay.
How you call it?
Oh dear.
Yeah, you need to help me with this.
No.
Gynecologist. Yeah. So they do not have one like for years. So we advocate for this, and they have a high rate of diseases. in this matter. So this is something that if you do not address and you do not go to the health ministry and advocate for this, nobody will deal with it. As well as we have 3 hospitals in Nazareth, and they are private hospitals. They do not get funds the same rate that other, let's say, Israeli Jewish, or they are located in the Israeli localities or cities, and they have also suffering from discrimination in allocating funds. By the way, they have they did demonstrate in front of the government offices and the health ministry offices last week, and we joined them, and also Arab Knesset members joined them in order to advocate and lobby for funds that they should have allocated to these hospitals. So if we do not work, if we do not allocate, or we do not address these issues, the government of Israel and the ministries will just ignore us. So this is something crucial of our work in order to bring the change and stop these discriminations in all aspects.
So we've had many good questions, and Suha's got lots of good information. I think we've got time for another question if somebody wants to pop it into the chat here. Maybe just while I'm waiting to see if that happens, I'd like to make a suggestion. This is so amazing to listen to you and the whole program today with on the ground information. I'd like to suggest that each person ask somebody else to watch this when it goes up on YouTube, and ask somebody else to join us next week. It's a shame. I'm glad we're getting it all, but wouldn't it be great if other people were hearing this too? So I'd like to encourage that. Okay, I think I have a question. What about schools in the Arabic language? Do they have the same level of, I don't know what subvention means, maybe funding, Probably. Just talk to us about the schools that are operating in the Arabic language and how that goes.
It doesn't go well, because we do, seriously. By the way, as a Palestinian inside Israel, we have to have and to study and to learn 3 languages: the Arabic, and it's not it's a standard Arabic. It's not the Arabic that we are talking. So this is something that when you are in 1st grade, you need to learn Arabic in a different way that you were talking.
Right.
And we need to learn the Hebrew, because this is the language of the state, and also we need to learn English. So from our side as a community, English is the 3rd language for us, and this is why usually we suffering from we do not talk we do not have an English as a very how you call it,
You're not really
fluent.
comfortable with it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are not. We need to work on ourselves, and also in order to encourage ourselves, and in order to bring or to be in a level that can be, can deal with the day-to-day, let's say, conversations. And this is in the long term that can affect students and young people to be involved in employment with employees and with companies, that English is very important, especially with the high tech and with other companies. So this is something that because we do not have enough funds, so that means that we have less hours to from teachers or from the curriculum to be addressed to the students. We have less classes in each school, meaning that in each school, and I know that we have audience here from the US, from Canada. I live in New York now, and I'm privileged for my kids. Okay, I have now one is in college, but I have a 10 years old that he's learning in a class that had 22 people or students. In my community and in my country and in my school system, let's say the average is between 38 and 40 students in a class. So let's start from this, that one teacher needs to learn to teach and address the issues that students with 40 students in a class. Yes, we do not have funds as the Jewish student getting, and I would like to talk about my own experience as a mother. I lived in Jerusalem for a lot. I studied there at the Hebrew University, and I married my husband there, and we lived there for about more than 10 years. When we were starting looking for school to our kid, we couldn't find a place that can give him, and education for us is in a high level more than anything else. But not only for us, this is how we as a community, a Palestinian community, look, because we think that our strength is to educate our youth. So at the beginning, we put him on American school, by the way, for 2 years. He learned English, and for him, English was his first language. But when we moved to Haifa and we started looking for schools, and we started to, would like him to be enrolled in an Arabic school, we couldn't find space for him because we had to be registered a year ago in order to have space for him. So he went to a Jewish school. He went to actually a private Jewish school, and you can see the difference how in matter of the funds, the curriculum, the over activities or the extra activities that the Jewish students get, that the Arab students do not get. If you are a parent and you put your student or your kid in an Arabic school, all extra activities, you need to fund it. The schools do not fund this. So this is something that is also dealing with in matter of the parents, and this is something that not only that we need to find out and extra activities that should empower the kids, and kids need a lot of activities and also to work with them. This is something also that you need to pay for it, and this will affect the financial and all and people who have enough money can do that. But what about other families that, as I said, are living under the poverty line? Their kids will not find anything. They have to leave school at 1 o'clock and do nothing at home, or just stay in the streets. So yeah, there's a lot of less funding.
Now, a question has come up that's a new question to me, and so I really would like to just hear a little bit about it. It's called the Aramaic Nationality Act. And this person is saying, are there any figures on how many persons have been accepted as belonging to an Aramaic nationality? I didn't even know that existed. I mean, I knew about Aramaic, but I didn't know there was an Aramaic Nationality Act.
Aramaic nationality? You mean the Arab? Oh, okay. Like this is something that is related to the Christian. This is the meaning.
Hans, can you unmute yourself here and say something?
Yeah, if you can explain.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry. It was quite much protest among both the Latin Christians and also the World Catholic Churches back in 2014, when there was and it was because it was said to divide the Palestinians, or divide, like to kind of create fragmentation of the unity, so that it was an attempt to kind of make some persons accept I can't how to say it. It was just a kind of it was quite harsh criticism from the churches, and it was I haven't seen it since, so I just want to know if there is anything that's happened
So are you saying some people were being defined as Aramaic Christians or Aramaic Israelis according to some kind of
Yeah.
law?
Yes. But
You know anything about that,
if Suha is
Suha?
not able to answer it, it's not important. I just want to know if there was any kind of
I think I understand what you are what topic. Yeah, I think this has happened a few years ago, but I think as a community we do work on from our end not to hurt our unity. It's as a Palestinian, we do know, and as you know, we are Palestinians that that the Palestinian community is included Muslims, Christians, Druze, and I don't want to say Bedouin because Bedouin are part of the, if we talk about religious, they are part of the Islam religion. But yeah, there's some, let's say, sometimes we do hear about this group that they would like to be different and differentiate themselves from the Palestinian community. As a part of that, they would like to be as a part of the Israeli state. But this thing didn't work for them, because as a Palestinian, as a community, we should be as unity as we can. Despite what religious, what geographic area we are coming from, and despite anything else. We do have the same culture, we do speak the same language, we do have the same traditions, and this is what we are working. There's still some group, and we will hear about some other groups that they will different themselves from others, but will not work. And this is why you didn't hear it since then.
Thank you. Ryan's kind of thinking it's time for us to move on. So I want to thank everybody for the great questions, and thanks Suha for your great responses. We don't have time to answer every question today, but there will be a chat to ask questions after the session. And my script says I'd like you to point you out to our Kumi entry and action for the week. And unfortunately, the script I then has about last week's action. So Ryan, can you help me? What's the action for this week? Or Omar? They're thinking. It's like the little circle going round and round and round.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry that the script was not updated. I just have a very noisy background. So for the Kumi action, what we're asking is that one of the major challenges is getting family unification together. When somebody from inside the Palestinian, from inside Israel gets married to somebody from the West Bank, they are not able to live together. So the Kumi action is focused on help together. If you would like to help, so we have a story about Lana and Taysir, and I'm sorry, it's too loud behind me. Yes.
All right. So what I have is the right thing. Then I thought that was something from last week. I'll read mine. I'm wrong. It says, help keep families together. If you would like to help Lana and Taysir and families like theirs, or families suffering due to home demolitions because of the Kamenetz law, we urge you to contact your foreign ministries by phone, post, or email and tell them what you think about these laws. You can send your own foreign ministries an early Valentine with a message to explain that as a citizen of your own country, you demand that Israel recognize the rights of Arab citizens and the rights of all people to be together with whom they choose. So I guess that's in some of the written material that you sent out about those two people.
It's many foreign ministers. It's two laws. The citizenship law, that this affects the unification of the families, and the Kamenetz law is about the home demolition.
Oh, thank you very much. Many foreign ministries have a specific Israel desk to which you can direct your comments. If you'd like to help finding the contact information for your foreign ministry or suggestions what to say, please contact Mossawa at programs@gmail.com. They don't have enough to do, so you could write and ask them what to do, right? Okay, you can also call the parties in the Knesset and tell them to stop blocking resolutions that demand equal rights for citizens. Share the Valentine's Day message that you send to your foreign ministry on social media, tagging the ministry if possible. Encourage others to send similar messages and give them this short video on the citizenship law to watch. Link is in the chat. So I think today kind of evolved as we went along, and we've got really great information from Suha, and perhaps some of the other information you need to get from the written material. Okay, I'm at the end of my, just a minute, I have another page. Do you have any thoughts about the Kumi action or ways that people watching can help? Oh dear. All right. Thanks. Next week, we will be addressing the medical rights of Palestinians, particularly in Gaza, where dozens of patients die each year awaiting permission to travel to the West Bank for treatment. Meanwhile, patients in the West Bank face issues such as checkpoints, which almost always require a change of ambulance, costing precious time on emergency trips to hospitals in Jerusalem. If you'd like to be reminded of the online gatherings an hour before they begin, register for email reminders at kuminow.com online using the form at the bottom of the page. We hope to see you back here next week. Thank you again and good night. And I think we have some open chat at the end. Is that right? Omar? Yes? No?
Yes, for the people who would like to stay for just a get together or just debriefing.
Okay, so this is the end of the session as such, but if you want to stay and visit, we would welcome you to do that. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sabil. Oh, okay.
We're not disappearing.
Yeah,
on
I
you.
thought that I was, no, I just
I thought we were for a minute there too.
Yeah, and I just wrote my email address and the Mossawa website for any extra information and for direct contact. And Sabil, thank you so much. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Mariana. Thank you, Omar. Thank you, Kumi. You know, anything that we can also do and cooperate here in the US together. So we can also work together in certain issues. So thank you so much.